I'm so sorry. I was told. But nothing here.
It was getting better, and you know, this
Okay, please rise for the pledge of flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Melissa, roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Okay, we are at the 2024 tax rate public hearing. Joe, take it away.
Very short and sweet this year. The city of Fort Thomas has opted this year, after discussions during budgeting, to re-adopt last year's tax rate of $3.48 per thousand. What that effectively means, though, is that it is the compensating rate plus 1 and some change percent, which necessitates the public hearing. Compensating rate was $3.34 per thousand. $3.48 is what's being adopted. So at this point, we can open up the public hearing to anybody in the crowd who would like to speak.
Regarding the tax rate.
The tax rate.
All
We
right.
have a big assessment that you saw last year, or was it 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
Did we see any assessment prior or post?
There was a little bit of an assessment increase this year again. We consistently have an assessment increase. That doesn't change from time to time, which explains why we effectively exceeded the compensated rate, because the assessments went up and we straight line the tax rate. So small assessment increase, but nothing near what we had a couple years ago.
Usually from additional property or sole property.
It's really
Because we didn't have a blanket.
exactly. It's primarily the reassessment of sole property.
Okay.
I mean, this year compared to 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, this year is just primarily there's a small addition of new property every year, which is, I mean, really.
Remodels, things like
It's very little. It's the reassessment of property due to sales that really drives it.
All right. We'll close the public hearing and entertain the motion for the minutes of what, our last meeting?
minutes, I don't think.
We'll chat till next month.
Next month,
Or-
or the next meeting? All right. Your point of visitors communications, we can see what. I don't know, it's not to speak. Okay, Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Allegrini, 45 Lockwood Place. I just have one question. I happened to be out at a city event and I heard some people talking about payment of city property taxes. And I guess I was unaware that there was a payment plan option if you could not afford to pay the full amount of your taxes. And I'm gonna say honestly, I was taken aback by that statement, and I did file an open records request, and that was confirmed that that is what is being done for some properties. So, and I did ask for a written document to how that was done, and I was informed that they currently, there is no document for how that process was done. I was told that they were gonna be working on it, and I was told what the process is currently, how they do it. So I was just wondering, one, I know I can't ask everybody individually, but was anybody here aware that that was being done? That we were payment planning some property taxes?
It's with interest though, right?
Um,
not just-
I honestly,
It's a penalty, because if you don't pay your bill, it's a 15% penalty, and then it is still 5 or 8%, I believe, I don't know, it's in the ordinance.
8% per year, 0.67%.
I could pull that up.
It's 8%.
Oh, I know it, it's 0.67%.
How long do we
per
get?
year.
It's not a payment plan, it's if you don't pay, it's a penalty. But yes, someone might say it's a
I
penalty.
understand that.
I mean,
The document that I received, it was misleading because it had for two specific properties that were in arrears. It listed a total amount, but then I was informed that they were paying on that, but the payments were not being deducted as far as I could tell. So I don't really think that the final document I received was accurate. So I don't know how much in arrears, some of these properties truly are. But at what point do we foreclose on those properties?
we have a procedure for foreclosures.
So, yeah, so we're still working on finalizing our procedure for foreclosures, but we haven't done it for property taxes just because in Fort Thomas, we really don't have the need of it. We are, however, putting loans or liens on properties. We've started that the last couple months. Because we do have amounts that people owe out there that we haven't historically put liens on, but now we're doing that internally through staff. Mostly for code enforcement is where we started with the lien.
Okay, but let's go back to the property taxes. If they haven't paid their properties taxes, is there gonna be a threshold amount that you're gonna say we're gonna foreclose on these?
If you have, Joe, I mean, that's one
So-
thing I
so
haven't really.
Officially slash unofficially, since I took over as finance director in July of 2013, the threshold has been $10,000 outstanding or 3 consecutive years outstanding unless payments are being made. I
So-
notice you're
so it's-
smiling. Do you have additional questions?
Wow, if I remember that
Be a little
flow,
softer there.
if I remember the flow chart in the personnel manual, the citizens are at the top, everybody else. And I think that was very disrespectful.
I
That's not the first-
sincerely apologize.
That's not the first time that has happened. When we ask for someone to speak up, it's kind of disrespectful. But yeah, so it goes back to my payment plans. So we're allowing property owners to go on a payment plan to stall foreclosure on properties.
I wouldn't say that we stalled it. I mean, so when we start foreclosures, we do analysis before, staff does an analysis before we do a foreclosure. And if we don't see any way of getting it resolved, that's when we foreclose. So the 3,000 threshold is what we do for code enforcement. And I haven't looked into taxes, so that's another thing I can look into this month to see, to add that in there. But for code enforcement, is 3,000 kind of triggers, hey, let's take a look at this. And we want to see, have they been working with us? And if they have been, does it look like we're going to get a resolution? Because it's much easier to work with
I
somebody,
get it.
even though it's annoying for 6 to 9 months to
I
get
get
it
it.
resolved, right? And so the ones that we are currently, I think we have 4 properties that we are foreclosing on. Those are ones that there's no reasonable expectation that that's going to get solved. So
And not,
that's kind of the threshold for.
not only does it take a long time, once we get into that process, it costs the city
Yeah.
money. I end
I-
up billing for it,
Yeah.
and so we do what we can to try to we don't make deals with anybody, but we do what we can to try to keep me from having to foreclose, me creating billing, so that we can get those bills paid as expeditiously as possible without incurring additional monies.
Do we, including, I was gonna say, including upkeep of the homes, if the city of Fort Thomas ended up taking possession of a home, there would be significant amount of maintenance and upkeep for those homes. I foreclosed on quite a few homes when I was in Newport, and the additional costs were astounding.
But don't you think in today's market that if the price is right, they'd sell pretty quickly?
Well, additionally, we're not necessarily the first line when it comes to foreclosure.
I
Banks are
understand that.
occasionally owed money as well, so here, possibly yes, but it's not usually that easy.
In Fort Thomas, the answer is yes, but that's still why we did the analysis,
Gotcha.
because in my last city, we've gotten burned on that, where we just blanket everything, and then we ended up with a piece of property that was, cost us a lot of money annually, so.
Do we sell the bills? Don't we sell?
It goes to the master commissioner. Most of these people end up, deciding they work out a payment plan, they get themselves caught up, or somebody, they have a private sale. If it goes all the way, then it goes to the master commissioner, he sells at courthouse steps.
And then those people can foreclose if they like it.
Well, once that sale occurs, then whatever pool is there gets paid to county taxes, our taxes, first mortgage holder, second mortgage holder, and then whatever, if there's anything left over, it's wiped out. It's a foreclosure sale that it doesn't come off the debtor's personal obligation, but that property now is not liened in any way, and it's free.
We're talking about property taxes they owe, right, and then not paying them, right, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, so wouldn't, no, this would be Joe, because this is numbers. Wouldn't we be able to create a formula that includes the interest or the penalties that they're charged and the amount of time it would take to pay back, because they have to pay property taxes every year, so if they can't consume their debt by the time the next year rolls around, we can't assume they're gonna pay the next year's taxes. So then we're just doubling it and then tripling it and it just compounds. So why don't we just have a formula that would say, I mean, basically you have to pay it back by the next year and pay that in full.
It's in there.
So that sounds really great, but to foreclose on an occupied house is very difficult.
Okay.
And I don't want to put council in that situation. I've had to do that once in 8 years of being city.
I get it, but we're still giving them a year
Yeah.
and a stricter deadline.
So what's better is if you lien that house, you get payments when you can, you lien the house, that way if it does sell, you're gonna get that money, you get that money first. But
Okay. I
in
see
order
what you're
for us to kick somebody out on the street, that's council's decision, and it's a hard one.
saying. Yeah, you know, when we lien a house, you know, typically somebody's houses, they don't have money, they can't keep them up, and the longer we let it stretch, the less we're gonna get for the value of the house too as well, so. I understand it's a fine line, I'm just trying to, I don't know this formula that you guys have, I'm just trying to think the best,
Yeah, and
probably there's
I'll
no right answer.
I'll do,
You know?
no, and that's why you do
Because you're
the,
dealing with somebody's personal assets and they're trying to catch up and they come on bad time. Yeah, we also don't want to blight the city and we don't want to be a collection agency either, so where is that?
and that's why it's an analysis, it's not just checklists, like, it triggers, we really wanna look at it holistically. And before we actually go down the road to, we start foreclosure as an executive branch, but before we would actually put it out for foreclosure, for master commissioner sale, and to see if council or the city would want to bid on it, I'd bring that before council, just to make sure council approves it. I think we probably don't have to, but I just think that it makes the most sense to have council be a part of that. But I can add, I've already have a draft foreclosure specifically for code enforcement, but I'll look into the taxes one. We just haven't had, I think 99 point something pay their taxes in town, so we really haven't had.
I think we're 99.68 this year.
So that's why it really hasn't hit my radar, but I can definitely look into that to have
Okay.
a foreclosure that handles both of those issues.
All right.
Thank you.
Taking that with you?
No, it's just in the way, we can't see your smiling faces over on this side.
And then reports of committees. Eric, you want to give us a report on the public utilities and the business committee?
Sure. Make it brief.
So earlier this evening, the Public Utilities and Buildings Committee met about Duke's LED lighting program for the city that we can potentially take advantage of. There are about 900 lights in the city. This would affect all of them. There's about a 50% potential savings due to I'm sorry, not savings, but I guess it's greater than 50% reduction in energy usage with the new LED lighting. LED life of light is about 20 years versus 7 what we currently have. And the break even on those lights in terms of the upfront cost that we would potentially pay, and then the energy savings would be about 7 years or so for the Cobra lights that are up higher, 25 feet, shine over the streets. And on the post, it's a little bit longer, about 14 to 15 years, I think you said. So we would have to make a decision on a couple of things. There's 2 different lighting options. We have to decide on that. We would also have to decide whether we paid the full amount up front or did it over some period of time. I think the options were 1, 3, 5, and 7 years. And then the other major decision, I guess, would be on the timing of when we started the program, if we do. And we need to get updated numbers from him. The last one was 2021, I think he said, and that was $500 and something thousand with about 85,000 in annual cost savings from the reduction in energy usage. So he's going to get updated numbers for us within a couple of weeks, and then we will bring it back to the committee and decide whether we want to make a recommendation to council to move forward or continue to just have lights replaced as we go, which is the default option.
Eric, would you mind, you said to bring it back to the committee, would you want to just bring that back to full council, or would you want to have another committee meeting to discuss it?
No, I didn't know if we had to do it that way or not, so
I think,
we've all heard it. So.
yeah, I think the committee says that they wanted to move forward with the program if the numbers work out.
Yeah.
But it's up to you, and we can definitely have
always
a
have the
committee
committee
meeting.
before the meeting like we did last time too.
What's that?
Committee before the meeting.
I'll just work with you and we'll figure that out once the numbers come
Yeah, I
in.
think the committee got most all of our questions answered, other than the actual updated numbers, so that'd be fine.
Great, thank you. All right, is there any old business? Any new business?
I have some new business. In light of I think everybody's spoken with our city administrator, Matt Kramer, and in light of a situation with administration, I'm making a motion to move the executive session per KRS 61.810, Section F, discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee, member, or student without restricting that employee's, members, or student's rights to a public hearing if requested. This exception shall not be interpreted to permit discussion of general personal matters in secret. So I'm making that motion. I was wondering if I get a second, then we can do it.
Is there a second to the motion?
I spoke with, I don't think I spoke with you yet, but I don't see why it wouldn't make sense for us to go to executive session and have a discussion, all where we're together, since we're not allowed to outside of executive session, so I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. All right, we're going to executive session. We will return to go through the ordinance and orders and